So I find myself having to do another video on a situation that went down this past weekend in downtown Orlando. It's just, the more details I find out about it, the more outrageous the whole thing becomes. So let me be really clear. This involves a restaurant in downtown Orlando that's called DoveCote. This restaurant is on Orange Avenue. It is in a high-rise building that's directly across from the Orange County Courthouse. These people not only engaged in just blatant racial discrimination, they weaponized police, and then they lied about what they did. The restaurant against DoveCote. So here's the situation. And I've mentioned this again. You've seen posts on my Facebook page about it, but it's so outrageous and happening in the heart of downtown Orlando. It's happening, quite frankly, 3 blocks away from the Paramore community, a historic black community in Orlando. That's how blatant these people are. So this party of 5, 4 black people and 1 white female, go to dinner at this restaurant. They're having a 3-course meal. They're ordering bottles of wine. They're having drinks. And then somebody at the restaurant comes over and tells them, now these people, by the way, they made reservations. They had reservations that they made through Open Table. So they had reservations, so they weren't just like walk-ins or something like that. Restaurant management comes over and tells them they have to leave because they've been there too long. They've been there an hour and a half. Remember, it's 5 people, 3-course meal, cocktails, drinks, dessert, the whole 9 yards. It's a Saturday night. We're out to a restaurant, relax, and kick back and enjoy friends. You've been here too long, an hour and a half. Hold the phone. If you go to the friggin' movies, the friggin' movie is 2 hours long. The friggin' movie is 2 hours long. You get to the movie a few minutes early, stuff like that. An hour and a half? Come on. They had reservations. So the party kind of objected to this and said, we're enjoying ourselves, relaxing. Why do we have to leave? He said, if you don't leave, we're going to call the police. Anytime you call the police on black people, you are endangering black lives. Think of how many times black people have been killed by the police responding to some minor thing that turns into a big situation. Now, I will give Orlando police, and people who know me know that I'm not very complimentary with police. The Orlando police handled it very well. The officers came, they listened, they understood, and in fact, the officers told the people when they heard the story, so I would actually officially complain about the behavior of these people. They trespassed this party and made them leave. Now I find out that on Google reviews, and you can look this up yourself, you can go to Google reviews and look up DoveCote restaurant. In one of the reviews in the restaurant, another diner who was there the same night saw the party being escorted out. And they mentioned this in their review, and they apparently asked the restaurant people, why are these people being kicked out? You know what the restaurant people said? They said they're being kicked out because they refused to pay their bill. That's a lie. They paid more than $700 and they got kicked out. And then they lied. They lied and they accused them of, what they accused them of is called, that is an actual criminal charge that is called defrauding an innkeeper. Defrauding an innkeeper actually is a 3rd-degree felony in the state of Florida. So they falsely accused these people of committing a crime. So now, the people who see this video and say, well, how do you know the 2 sides of every story? We need to give the restaurant the benefit of the doubt, because the white people always deserve the benefit of the doubt. Black people never deserve the benefit of the doubt. White people always deserve the benefit of the doubt. Well, there's another aspect of this story, this whole benefit of the doubt thing. The story was told to me I was basically tagged in a Facebook post by a woman who I do not actually know, who's a Facebook friend of mine, who tells the story. The woman who told the story, who was a member of the party that got ejected from the restaurant, is in fact white. Her husband is black. So there's your benefit of the doubt. And the rage that she felt is the same rage that I feel. Then people in their Facebook posts about things, people say, well, you handle it, in such a dignified, professional way. They're always talking about how, black people, when faced with racism, like Martin Luther King and stuff like that, the quiet dignity. Maybe we as black people need to be a little less dignified in the way that we deal with blatant racism. Donald Trump is not dignified. Everybody's listening to him. This keeps on happening. This is 2023. This is not 1962 and 1963. And the problem is we're seeing more and more of these incidents of kind of blatant racism happening. In another video I mentioned, this is like the third one of these incidents I've heard about in the past few weeks. There's a thing called the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that prohibits, it's a federal law that prohibits discrimination in public accommodations. A restaurant, a hotel, a restaurant is a public accommodation. Okay? So these people blatantly breaking the law in downtown Orlando, and they cannot be allowed to get away with this. So whether you're black, even if you're not black, nobody should be spending money at this restaurant. This restaurant, as far as I'm concerned, I wasn't part of the group that was there. In fact, it turns out I knew one of the people who was there. It was a guy who I've known for a couple of years, who in fact, everybody talks about the quiet dignity. I mean, who really was this guy was a naval aviator, an officer. The woman who shared the story with me, she's a former U.S. Army captain. These are professional people. And these people, they didn't hoop and holler or anything else. They accepted that indignity of being marched out of this restaurant by armed police officers. They sent 3 cops there, like they were going to cause like a big riot or something like that. Being marched out of this restaurant, and they accepted it with this quiet dignity. And what I need to know is the Orlando community going to accept this with quiet dignity? Is the Orlando community going to say, oh, that's okay, that's just a one-off thing. They must have done something else. There's always they must have done something else. Why not the racists? They must have done something. This restaurant needs to be shut down. This restaurant needs to be held up to ridicule. This restaurant receives any city dollars or any money. It's right across the street from the courthouse. How many meetings of lawyers are held at that restaurant? How many Christmas parties from the courthouse staff held there? They need to get not another dollar for another person who considers himself to be a fair-minded person, because we cannot accept this. I cannot accept this. Didn't happen to me, but you know what? Tomorrow could happen to you. Quiet dignity, my ass. FAFO.